Hearing will come to order. It's my pleasure to welcome Secretary Rick Perry to his second hearing with the Energy and Water Subcommittee. Secretary Perry, thank you for your continued service to our country. We appreciate it very much. I look forward to hearing from you today on the fiscal year 2019 budget request and learning more about how it reflects your priorities for the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy's role in supporting our nation's defense through the maintenance of the nuclear weapons stockpile and through support for the nuclear Navy are at times not well recognized. The importance of these activities are well reflected in the fiscal year 2019 budget request. However, with the strong increase of $1.8 billion or 19% requested for nuclear weapons activities and $369 million or 26% for naval reactors compared to the fiscal year 2017 enacted level. These programs and the other defense activities of this bill are and will remain a high priority for this subcommittee. I'm also pleased that the administration continues to propose appropriate funding for Yucca Mountain. Having the administration support current law is refreshing and hopefully will help us move past the legislative stalemate and with the Senate of the past several years. The President's budget proposes a $1.9 billion decrease from fiscal year 2017 for energy programs, reflecting the administration's desire to focus resources on early-stage research and development. This committee must carefully review the request to understand the impacts to these important programs and activities. Unfortunately, the Department has been very slow to provide details about the request for energy programs. In fact, we are still waiting on some program details, and others were provided just this morning. This delay means today's hearing is an even more important part of our oversight process. Secretary Perry, I appreciate you being here today to explain your budget request and hope that we can work together to move forward a budget that will strengthen our national security and advance our energy independence. Please ensure that the hearing record, questions for the record, and any supporting information requested by the subcommittee are delivered in the final form to us no later than 4 weeks from the time that you receive them. Members who have additional questions for the record will have until the close of business on Monday to provide them to the subcommittee office. With that, I'll turn to my ranking member, Ms. Kaptur, for her opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and we welcome you back, Mr. Secretary, and all of your colleagues who are with you today serving our country. We're glad to have you back again. No department could be more important in America's security than the Department of Energy in terms of energy security and also guardianship of our nuclear weapons complex, so important to our strategic position. I understand that yesterday you also led a roundtable discussion on critical water issues. I want to thank you for doing that and for the administration grappling with this rather complex but timely issue, and for your action step to request information on how best to unleash innovation in this area. Our energy and water and food systems are interdependent, and I don't think enough work has been done on the intersection of these important areas. Texas has experienced very heavy rainfall, enormous, and has had the edges of drought burn your edges there. So I think your special sensitivity here is very important to the nation at this point in our history. We need to develop affordable, deployable energy and water efficient systems from agriculture to electricity generation and use, and I look forward to working with you on this important confluence of issues. Before we discuss the budget request, I want to take a moment to express some disappointment and, frankly, frustration that we're sitting here today over a month after the President's budget request was released, and unfortunately, only this morning has the Department provided the final volumes of your budget request. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. During my time as ranking member on this subcommittee, I've never seen delays like this. And while I understand that there are multiple administration entities involved in this production process, and certainly one called the Office of Management and Budget, I have to say this does not reflect well on the Department and does a disservice to this committee. I'd like to take a moment to discuss the impressive strides we've made in increasing America's energy independence, with no department more important than your own. I view this as a strategic goal for our nation. We now provide over 90% of our energy needs from domestic sources. This is an accomplishment 4 decades in the making, and I think with your stewardship we'll get over the last 10% and give us a little reserve in addition. Renewable energy as a subset of that now accounts for 18% of our electricity generation. This is nearly on par with our nation's nuclear fleet, and it's happened in a relatively short period of time, though some of our photovoltaic research goes back to the 1980s. Electricity made up a smaller share of consumer spending last year than it ever has in recorded history, and every business I represent tells me that if I can get the percentage of energy costs down, they become more competitive. The Department of Energy has been a real leader in that regard, and with our economy growing, our total energy consumption is declining, providing we have an economic growth pattern that takes care of emissions. These successes are due in no small part to DOE's world-class research. There simply is no better, both basic and applied. And looking at the budget request, I am gravely concerned and hope to be able to fix the significant cuts that are contained in it, particularly in the energy accounts that will undermine the advances we've been making to date and will slow progress to continue job creation and efforts to modernize our aging energy infrastructure. The budget request for the Department of Energy provides a significant increase of 10% to defense accounts, including a staggeringly huge increase in the weapons account of 19%. At the same time, the request slashes non-defense applied energy accounts by more than 40%, of which energy efficiency and renewable energy alone is cut by 67%, two-thirds. Cuts like these lead me to believe that you do not think that efficiency and renewables are a good investment, so I would like to take a minute to enumerate some of the accomplishments of the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and feel obligated to do so this morning. Since 2009, the cost of electricity from new wind power projects has decreased by 67%. Wow. For solar, that corresponding figure is 86% decline. Americans have saved hundreds of billions of dollars thanks to new energy efficiency standards that have brought us smarter appliances, heating and cooling systems, and lighting, and we are on track to see $1 trillion in savings by 2020. The Weatherization Assistance Program, also proposed for elimination in this budget request, which I simply cannot support, delivers $340 million in yearly energy savings to the American people. These advances have put money in the American people's pockets and made our air cleaner, and most notably for the President's agenda, created jobs. The fastest growing job in America today, as the Secretary well knows, is wind turbine technician. And in fact, Texas is one of the top states for energy efficient jobs. Finally, with all the rhetoric about putting America first on an economy-wide basis, China outspends us by almost $100 billion annually on research and development. Yet here you are defending massive cuts to programs that have proven effective. If we want to maintain our technological and economic advantages, we must increase these investments and make no mistake, they are investments in our future. We cannot be short-sighted and let the rest of the world pass us by. And with that, I'll close my remarks and thank you again, Mr. Secretary, for being here with us today, and we look forward to your testimony and the opportunity to adapt your budget request as the months ensue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the privilege to be here. Ranking Member Capter, it is good to be in your presence and the committee members as well. We are here to discuss the President's fiscal year 2019 budget request for the Department of Energy. And just as an aside, let me say what a privilege it is to be able to serve. And Mrs. Capter, I know that you're just a few days away from being the long-serving female member of the House of Representatives. Congratulations on that. We were just sharing with what an honor it is to be the longest-serving anything. And myself as a governor of Texas back a few years ago, but what an extraordinary privilege for me to sit in front of you as the 14th Secretary of Energy. Mr. Chairman, this budget represents a request to the American people through their representatives in Congress to fund the priorities of this department. It underscores DOE's commitment to stewardship, to accountability, to service, and I hope that our interactions with you and other committees of Congress that we've had over the past year have underscored that commitment to serve.